No, man, but you got to keep going. What am I going to do, quit? That's not an option. You got to keep. No, man, but you got to keep going. What am I going to do, quit? That's not an option. You got to keep on keeping on. Life's a garden, dig it? You make it work for you. You never give up, man. That's my philosophy.
Welcome to my fall garden. As you can see, it's in transition, not quite growing, but not quite in full hibernation. This area we're going through is a mix of growing edibles and ornamentals. Then we move on to my driveway, where I have some raised planters here, and they are usually full of vegetables, but currently chopped leaves, soil, and spent mushroom substrate. Then we go over to this area, the front of my house. Currently no real plants except for some berries that need to get stored. A arch which grows edibles as well, and some more pots that usually are full of edibles but again set into winter storage right now, and my 2 geese currently not wearing costumes. I have approximately 5 ornamental sections, but I squeeze in where I can with an entirely mostly north-facing gardens what I am able to fit in for things that will be edible. And these are 3 new fruiting trees, 2 apples and a peach, a pile of branches that will be used for birch crafting for winter, for Christmas. Another of my ornamental areas, again, just in storage basically. It's in transition, hibernation. Now another tree, a maple that's an ornamental. And as we go through to the back section, we are seeing my fruit tree that gave me fruit for the first time. It's an apple. And it's a Nordic variety that is absolutely needs some pruning. I waited on a friend to prune it, and that's not going to happen. So some pruning is going to happen in the dormant season this year. And thank you for coming along with me on the garden tour. And let's get going. Welcome to all my passionate plant people and gardening enthusiasts. Welcome to the Let's Get Growing show on the Urban Gardener channel. I'm Jay, aka the J-Bot, and I am your host today. We'll have a great show today. Today your featured guest is Enoch, the founder and frequently the host for the Let's Get Growing channel and the Urban Gardener channel. This channel has over 18,000 subscribers and 600 plus videos since he started it over 8 years ago. Since then, the channel has changed and adapted in numerous ways, and including live format entertainment show, having Saturday and Sunday shows, garden tours, specific garden videos, and more. Stay tuned in a few minutes and we will have that interview. And let's get growing. For those people who are in our show today, I would like you to like, subscribe, and share. There's numerous ways that you can help support this channel. I just want to remind all of you that we are having this show live every Saturday and Sunday at 11 a.m. PST, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and 7 p.m. for the people in the UK. And I want to give a huge shout out to those of you who are watching in the replay. Thanks for joining us after the stream. let us know that you're here by leaving a comment below. And for those of you that are here live today, we are super grateful that you're here. If you have a question or comment, we would love for you to ask it, and we would love to possibly be able to feature it on the show. The best way we can tell that, because the chat area is very lively, is if you can cooperate by having all caps. That makes it so much easier for her to pick out your comment and be able to get that question answered in the show. And for those of you who are either live now or will be watching the show later on, in the description, you'll find links to numerous elements of the show, including other social media, information about guests, people who support the show in various ways with other formats, and other contributions to the show. So do take a look for that in the description area. Okay, so thanks to all of you for joining us today. As you saw, that I gave a little bit of an Easter egg at the beginning with the showing my garden, and that's a portion of my home garden. And what's really happening here in Canada is, because it's November, a lot of our stuff is pretty much in transition, going from fall into winter, and not looking that lively. And for the perennials, we're doing things like chopping leaves, adding a mushroom substrate, adding things like compost and things like that, to be able to basically make those perennials more likely to survive our fairly severe winters here. My last week on the show, and I will be following up on this a little bit more later, but last week on the show, I showed a little bit about my garden plot, which, because we're in small space living, is actually in a community garden plot. And unusually, for most of the people there, I'm actually still growing. And currently, I checked it yesterday and this morning, and I have some cool weather stuff still surviving. I probably have about 80 to 100 pea plants fully producing and still looking healthy. And then I have quite a number of cold weather plants that are not only surviving right now, but they are actually going to be thriving by transitioning. As they experience numerous frosts, they're actually going to become, in many people's opinion, better plants. So the produce will actually become, in my opinion, a little more mellow, a little more sweet, and essentially it changes the flavor of things like cabbage, kohlrabi, Swiss chard, Brussels sprouts, beets, carrots, things like that. That are either root crops or very hardy cold weather crops that are leafy but very able to handle the cold. Those things actually get enhanced by the garden experience. And as I'd mentioned briefly last week, someone who may look and sound a lot like me left an awful lot of garden detritus just all over the place and needs to clean up. So I've been spending a fair number of hours just putting away garden supplies and tools, ornamental things that I would rather protect in a shed or sheltered area, and things like that. So essentially, that's what I've been doing to spend my time in the garden. And in the coming weeks, I'll be harvesting some of those cold weather crops that are happiest at this time of year. And luckily, I planned for that in August. And now they're going to be providing stuff for me for at least another month. And I am super happy about that. And basically, that's what's going on in my garden. And I am super excited about our show today. I would love to see some of you speak up in the chat to let me know that you're here, to let me know, some of your questions and comments throughout the show. And that's about all I have to say about my garden today. Oh, terrific. We've got Adam here, and he is a good supporter of the show. He's one of the moderators, and he's actually living not very far away from where Enoch is. So it's nice to see Adam. We see Robin Gardens here, and she is another supporter of the show, and she did some really unique stuff when we had the Halloween hangout a few weeks ago. But she's in Chicago area. Fabulous. And Shawnee Grows, terrific. There's Shawnee having a little laugh about what I'm doing today. Fantastic. And Rick Thillian, and he's actually approaching us from Australia. And he's a regular here on the show, has been for years, and really nice to see him checking in once again. And Mighty Puddles Farm, fabulous. I'm pretty sure they're from that same region of the world as well. So, on a different time zone. John Jude, talking about some of his projects and stuff like that. Yes. I also was really harvesting the fall leaves. And Bowtie Life in the Garden, thank goodness, he is a good supporter of the show, and he's agreed to kind of step us up and help us in the chat today. And we are very grateful for that. And Habitual Hobbies, good to see you. Good afternoon to you. And Janet Potter, good afternoon. Glad to see you here. And Darth X, fabulous. Oh, yes, the J-Bot. Yes. That's one of my acronyms that people, a nickname for me that have come up because of some of the things that I often do in the chat to try and help facilitate the show. So good to see you. Guten Gardening, Paul's here. Fantastic. Another great supporter of the show. Good to see you. And the Fresh Princess. Ah, yes. Good to see you. Fantastic. Good afternoon to you. Terrific. I am so glad that some of you spoke up and let us know that you're here. We are very grateful for all of our supporters here in the chat and with the channel and whatever that you do. I would like to let you guys know what is going to be next on the show. And we're going to be having an extremely special, slightly unusual interview today. And some of you have maybe figured out where that might be going today. So we are going to, after this ad break, we're going to be having our feature guest for our next interview. And I'm going to leave that for now. And you're about to see who that featured guest will be after we have this ad break with IV Organics. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Charles Malky, biologist and plant expert with IV Organics, where we grow cool plants and author Saving the World with the Home Garden. IV Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard has 7 natural oils that protect your plants, not just from the summer heat as well as winter cold, but also protects your plants from damaging insects and rodents. The oils in the product include castor, cinnamon, clove, garlic, peppermint, rosemary, and spearmint. These oils are natural insect and rodent repellent oils, which are encapsulated by the base powder, offering your plants months of protection at a time. 1 application per year will suffice for protection against damaging summer sunburn and winter sun scald, but if the target is pests, application as much as 2 to 3 times a year may be necessary.
Fantastic. Now what we're going to do is talk about some of the shows that had been recently aired on our show. And last week we had as a featured guest Andrew Milson. He showed us a very unique way that he shows permaculture and combines it with a very unusual form of art. And I was also the warm-up act for that show. And on the Sunday, we saw Gardner Scott, who in his usual way was able to answer so many questions and answers from our audience. What a asset he is to the show, and we are super pleased to have him here. And coming up tomorrow, we're going to be having the Let's Get Growing monthly book club, and we do that the 3rd Sunday of every month. And tomorrow we're going to have as a special show Kristen Graves, and she's going to be talking about garlic. She's created a book called The Garlic Companion, and we are very pleased to have her here as our guest. Get your garlic questions ready because we're going to have her as our live guest. I just want to thank our audience again. I deeply appreciate you being here for the show, supporting the show. It is a it is very important to us, and we are super pleased to have you here. Okay, so today I'm going to be introducing our featured guest, and for that featured guest, I would like you to welcome in.
You never know when you might learn something, and that's what this is about for me. These are people that I admire. Please welcome my next guest.
Our featured guest today is Enoch Graham.
All right. I think we've had some fun with this for sure, right? This is really great. I'm the guest on my own show today. How about that, everybody? And way to go, Jay. Big, huge. There you go. First time we've ever had a guest host here today. Jay did an amazing job. Drop into the comments there. Let Jay know how awesome she did starting up and hosting our show today. Great job. You ran right through it. You did awesome. Excellent.
For those of you who don't see what I got a glimpse of backstage last week, and he kind of foreshadowed that something like this might happen. In order to have the quality show that Enoch presents, there is so much going on backstage. You have no idea. I tried to make show notes, and it was 25 items there was literally an item for almost every minute of the amount of transitions and things that are to follow in order to have the level of professional show that Enoch does. And I am blown away. I'm still I guess you might say nervous and overwhelmed, because it's really hard to explain to people. I had to go into 4 pages of notes just to keep up with what he does naturally now. Yes.
Oh my. Yeah, well, it's great, in doing this sort of thing, I guess I don't realize as much of it, until you see someone else trying to do it, what goes into and how, because it's really kind of just natural anymore. It's something I've kind of developed naturally as we've done, over 150 shows now, so.
Well, you kept when you were kind of trying to help me through this the last couple of days, you kept saying it so quickly and blithely, and I'm like, no, you're explaining 10-12 concepts, and I'm trying to do this reliably and well. I have to make far more notes than what you're just saying there. Like, yes. So I have an even greater appreciation for what you did to create this show, what you go through every week. So
ultimately, as I was telling you, I just wanted you to just kind of not, just let it go, let it flow, let it happen, do that sort of stuff. And that's kind of what I have to do as well too. And just kind of slow it down. It's just a a chance to hang out with all of your friends and all of that sort of thing too. So again, there's a bit that goes into it, but it's really fun when it comes down to it, and it's really awesome to see you give it a shot and do that. It was really fun to kind of sit back and be a part of that.
Well, I hesitate to say, but depending on the results of what happens today, but it was my idea. There was a space in the schedule, and there was a few options we could have went to, and I said, hey, here's kind of a wild and crazy idea. And and so what we're going to do shortly is we're going to start the formal part of the interview, but it allows you in the audience to ask questions about Enoch himself, about how he created the show, how he's developed it over the years, specific things about his type of gardening. And my thought is, let's just get into it. How does that sound?
Yeah, everybody, get some questions in there. I want to see a question from everybody. Think up a question, something that you want to ask me. I've seen most of you here in the chat already. You've been around a while, most all of you, and I'm sure there's some questions, some thought you've had that you want to share with the rest of us. So definitely drop into our chat there and help Jay along with this really fun interview we're doing here today. But yeah, let's roll. Let's go. It's kind of different. Like I said, I'm having a hard time pulling myself back from what am I hosting? I'm the guest here. Wait a minute.
Yes.
So yeah,
So we'll see how it goes. We'll be
yeah.
we'll be forgiving in each direction, right? About where I kind of wobble a little bit, and when you kind of take control of, oh, I don't know, your own show. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, definitely everybody drop in some questions. I'll highlight those questions and we'll work those into our interview here today, or Jay's interview here today.
Yes. I'm the host today. He's the sometime host.
You just let me know also too, because there's a couple of questions that's come in, but you ask questions as well, and you let me know if you want a guest question or a viewer question, and then we'll put one of those out as well.
I'm going to get a little bit started, and then I do want to try and have as many of the audience questions as possible. I view my questions as sort of like fill, and I really want to have the audience stuff dealt with if it flows with the talk. Okay,
Yeah,
so
definitely.
thanks for joining me today, Enoch. I'm excited to dig in and chat about your journey, gardening in urban spaces, and how Let's Get Growing. And how someone in a limited space, like for me, my driveway or community garden plot, can thrive. So let's get started talking about that. May I start with, when did your garden story begin? Like your first personal gardening experience for you?
Yeah, for me personally, the growing a garden as far as food and all of that, I've started maybe I think it's probably about 14, 15 years ago now when I lived up in the Seattle area in this apartment. And I've shared this story many times before about the cucumber and a friend and growing that and everything. But I've always really grown plants though. And that's kind of how that cucumber came to me, was that I've always kind of been into plants. My mother was a huge house plant person. She loved taking care of house plants. And when I was very young, that was one of those kind of things we did together, was propagating some of her house plants and teaching me how to plant them out and do different things with those. And so so from a very young age, I've actually had plants of my own in my own room or my own home throughout most of my life. That's how a cucumber came to me years later. And because a friend of mine was like, hey, you like growing all these plants and everything, and gave me this cucumber. And it was just a different experience. I never grew food before, so I was like, this is I know this has got to go outside. There was just a few things I just thought of was like just natural and growing, get them some soil, get it a pot bigger, transplant it, do all that sort of stuff. And luckily, in a sense, that the balcony was in the right place. It got a decent amount of sun, and I just watered it as I was watering all the rest of my plants, and it just took off and grew and started vining everywhere and produced these cucumbers. And it was getting to harvest those and eat those cucumbers from a plant that I grew, that just kind of just set off this whole new thing for me, just this whole gardening adventure, leading up to where we are today. All started from that pretty much a moment when it was just kind of hit me like a light bulb, like, wait a minute, I can grow my own food, and I didn't even need that much space. I just had a balcony in this apartment. And luckily for me, YouTube was already kind of getting going and hitting its stride around that time. And so that's kind of what I immediately did, is I went to YouTube to figure out, like, okay, well, I grew a cucumber. I want to see what else I can do now, try some tomatoes, of course. Those were some of the first things we think of, is like, oh, let's try some tomatoes and other things. So I went and found like other YouTube gardeners and got into YouTube and just started learning all about growing my own food. And one of the things though too was there was only a couple of people that were kind of utilizing spaces that I had available to me. So within like a year or two from that cucumber, I had moved here to Southern Oregon. And I have a little bit more space here, but not much more space. It's some unique spaces that I didn't even think I had when I first started gardening. I thought I only had this little back patio and this little strip of in-ground garden or in-ground space that I could garden in. And so that was kind of that was my first challenge, was seeing those, what potential that the space could have, that sort of thing. And so that's where I didn't find much content on YouTube. So I built a lot of it out myself and thought of, a couple of different things to do. And then from there, it just kind of took off.
So that leads
I
into
don't
a
know if
question.
that answered your question even though.
Absolutely. I'm thrilled with the way that you're doing this. Fantastic. You're a very good guest. So
Perfect.
that kind of leads into a question that Bowtie Life offered there. He said, you've grown food on a carport roof, and he was asking about what is the mindset to turn a weird spot into a garden? Like, what kind of creative thinking are you doing when you go, what little odd corner that wouldn't normally be for food? What kind of things, processes do you go thinking about that?
Yeah, so again, yeah, that's kind of where I left off there too, though, is, again, you do kind of need to have some imagination when you're looking at spaces or sort of like these limited spaces and everything. The alleyway, I didn't grow. I was inspired by a neighbor. I think that's probably how my imagination started going wild and crazy, thinking that, oh, I could do other things, and it was my neighbor across the way. And he was gardening right out on the backside of the alleyway while I was trying to do the few things I could in that little strip there. And I'd still hadn't quite figured out the idea of doing like elevated beds that we started doing later and everything on the cemented patio. So I only had a couple of different containers that were kind of back there. So I didn't feel there was much I could do. I felt really kind of constrained until I noticed him coming out there and growing all these melons and cucumbers and tomatoes and different things just right in this strip right along the alleyway. And then all of a sudden, that's kind of also too another light bulb moment for me was kind of being inspired by him and going, okay, well, I could grow similarly here. I could do that. And then that's when I started looking into the side alleyway spaces, and we built out a couple of raised beds. We do some other things like in the back alley. I've grown out like corn and just all sorts of just really crazy cool stuff that we were able to do with that extra space. And then it was kind of at the time I was starting to adopt the alleyway space that I was really starting to figure out elevated raised beds, how to utilize these water wicking containers. And then that's when other things started to pop up. The rooftop, it was like, wait a minute, I could get these containers up on this space. I mean, that's just this full sun and everything. And so that's kind of how the rooftop got going. And so yeah, and that was all just within like just a couple of seasons period of time as I was first started gardening here in Southern Oregon. And then from there was just kind of learning a bit more and figuring some stuff out too, because again, like I said, there was only very limited information on the type of growing in the types of spaces that I was growing in, at that time.
You often talk about small space gardening, and I was wondering what some of the biggest constraints that you feel that you personally have experienced that might apply to other people's urban gardening experiences, and how do you kind of solve some of those problems?
Yeah. Again, too, it kind of comes back to that idea of having a little imagination. Again, the constraints and things with small space gardening, are similar to those with any other gardening. It's just sometimes, like the big one I'd say for me in my space is having to deal with, walls. One of the first things that we want to make sure that we have for our garden is plenty of light. Right.
Okay. Yes.
I've got water, water's no problem. I'm right there next to the house. So watering, and having water availability is not an issue, but the light, having to deal with walls and only limited amount of sun that's going to come through a certain space because you're dealing with different buildings and different things like that. So that was probably the first limitation, learning how a little bit more about layering, about getting things, up a little bit more, for gaining more sunlight over time and stuff. So again, it was just kind of having and imagine using your imagination and kind of figuring out how certain plants are what they're going to need, and how you can best suit that plant within any given space. And sometimes that means it's, got to be in a container, it's got to be able to move around, or it's got to be up higher because, like I said, the limitations of sunlight and all of that. So there's a lot of those sort of things like that I kind of had to learn and figure out throughout those first couple of seasons, for sure, to be able to utilize my space the best I could possibly do.
So if you were to give advice to one person about one specific trick or aspect people need to consider when they're trying to grow in these unusual spaces and possibly in containers, what would that one, beginner level basic advice be if you were trying to get someone into gardening who was maybe a little hesitant or just hadn't had experience to it?
Yeah. In these sort of situations and dealing with unique spaces and all of that, it comes down to, having understanding the idea that you're experimenting in a sense from the get-go. Is that you're trying new things, so not all new things are going to be successful. We talk about that a lot of times, is that don't bring yourself down over what you would probably call failures or whatever. They're just learning experiences, that sort of stuff. But it's even more so when you're dealing with unique small spaces in gardening, is kind of expectations. When it comes down to it, you got to understand that you're experimenting. So keep trying, keep working. That's what I had to do those first couple of seasons when in growing in these spaces, because I failed quite a bit in trying to grow certain things that I wanted to grow, and learning to grow other things in these more unique situations than what those plants would call for in a more regular garden setting. So you just got to kind of have fun with it and play around and do that. So again, it comes down to probably the best advice that you can give as far as the first step in getting in gardening and growing, no matter what your spaces are, is to have fun with it, to enjoy what you're doing, and don't worry about the plants dying. I kill more plants than I grow, that sort of stuff. So don't let those things discourage you. I know a lot of gardeners are like, oh, these bugs are eating. Well, take that as an opportunity to learn a little bit more about what how to better care for or better protect those plants and those sort of things in future situations where you're dealing with that, and just recognize that it's all a big learning experience. It's and that's what makes gardening fun, is that it's just a continual process. It doesn't really end. Our season, like right now, our season feels like it's ending, through most everything's dying off that we've been growing, these plants and things that we've been growing most of the season. And so it kind of feels like there's an ending, but there's now a new beginning. And that's just the coolest thing about gardening when it comes down to it. So have fun with it. Have fun with it as far as that goes. Soil, I would say, is big, because if you want to talk about something that's more practical in the garden, just soil care. One big thing I would say, as far as not being discouraged, container gardening, and you're dealing with new soil, a new system, a new setup. So sometimes plants don't do as well that first time around in a new situation, especially like raised beds, anything that's kind of a new soil situation. So learn to establish that soil. And again, I usually utilize the same concepts with my containers and my elevated raised beds that anyone would want to use in their regular garden setup or in-ground setup, is composting and soil care. I want to make sure that I'm building soil life, and having plenty of things going on. I want all those microorganisms and all that sort of stuff, and biodiversity in my soil, so that it's a lively soil, and plants do really well in that. And for first-time gardener, especially in small spaces, containers, and like the elevated raised beds that I use and all of that, that's probably the first thing, is again in the idea of expectations, is one, we're caring for soil. We want to make sure we're building good soil. That first year might not be the best, But if you keep working with it and you build on it, composting, I use compost teas and things like that as well too. The soil is going to come to life, and it's going to be really, it'll be just as awesome as any other soil situation that you'll be growing in.
Wow, fantastic.
Again, I hope I'm answering questions here.
You absolutely are. I am thrilled. One of my favorite catchphrases is become a soil farmer. So you are absolutely speaking in my thing. And one of the things that occurred to me with some of the stuff that you said a little further back is a lot of newbie gardeners get very discouraged by, pardon my gruesomeness here, but death. And the idea that death is inevitable. Death and plants dying is actually part of the process. It's part of their process, part of your learning process. And you can't get too discouraged by the fact that that will occur. It's just going to be part of your own personal growth as you learn what was the cause, what were the symptoms, how can I learn to adapt for those things. So that's great. I have another question for you here, and this is from Robin Gardens. She says, Enoch, what is your favorite sweet pepper and favorite chili? And she says, I know it's like pickling a favorite child. I mentioned this particular one because you did a whole series this year focusing on how you were growing peppers. And I do encourage people to check out that pepper series after the show. But what do you have for Robin's question here?
So favorite sweet pepper, and that's what I mostly grow, are sweet peppers. I grow ones that I really enjoy the most. I like some hot peppers, and I'll grow even super hots, you know, just to have, because I love growing the plants and I kind of have fun with those and exploring the different types of pods and just all the cool little features of the different types of peppers and varieties out there. But I mostly grow sweet peppers. And for a favorite, I mean, there's really a few of them right now that I really like. A couple of them I kind of grow each and every year. Two of them I just discovered the last couple of seasons. One of them was the Lesia, and another one is Etuda or Etiuda. I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but those two you can find at Baker Creek Heirloom Seed Company. I found those, got some seeds from one of the heirloom expositions I was at, and started growing those. And I just really love those as far as a sweet pepper. But my ultimate favorite sweet pepper is this one called a Dos des Landes or Dos. I'm not even sure. I don't know the French. I think it's French. But it's just this really cool, it's a long pepper. It looks like a hot chili. So it's got that long kind of characteristic to it with some ripples on the top. It has this really deep red color. I think another thing I really like about that Lesia variety too is the deep red, almost like a dark red color that they both kind of have a similar color to them, but they're just amazingly sweet. And they are like one of my favorite, because I forage a lot when it comes to my garden. I like just eating just right out of the garden space. And that pepper is just one of the best that you just go out in the garden, grab one or two of those and just start munching on them. And they're like sweet pepper candy in a way.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I have to say my favorite hot pepper, though, a hotter variety is I've not gotten, and I don't really eat and enjoy the super hots very much, but one that's kind of warm. I wouldn't say it gets as warm as a habanero or so, is our Sugar Rush Peach variety, another one I grow. And one thing I'll talk about with that is that I've kind of covered with our video series this year, or just actually kind of talked about in the last video, is that it's one that I've kind of grown out the last several years from a certain pod characteristic that was different than the normal Sugar Rush Peach, because they're kind of a long ahi variety. So they got a long kind of pointy kind of pod to them. But I started discovering these ones that were kind of pinched or kind of growing up inside of themselves.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah. So I started selecting those off and saving seeds from them. And I've been trying to, I guess, breed out that characteristic from the pods. And so this year I kind of it didn't seem like I was making much progress for those first couple of years that I was growing them, but this year I really noticed a larger percentage, and I'm thinking maybe about 40 to 50% of our plant this time produced those types of pods. So I'm like, okay, now I'm getting onto something now. So hopefully in the next season or two, I'll get like like the plant mostly produces those pods. And once I can get those genetics going and solid, then I want to start sharing those seeds as kind of my own version of the Sugar Rush peach.
Well, in fact, is that your first time trying to do sort of some? Yeah.
Yeah, really. I mean, I'm growing them and doing that sort of stuff has been real fun. I've never really, I've accidentally crossed plants because I grow so many plants next to each other. So I've had accidental crosses and issues with that in regrowing and doing things and saving seeds in years past, but I've never like purposely crossed anything or purposely tried to breed out any sort of characteristics from any sort of certain plant before. So this is kind of the first kind of run into that. And then I think this next year I'm going to actually try to do an actual cross, pick a couple of different varieties and see what kind of new plant or new variety we can come up with as well too. Just some more stuff I want to do in kind of continually to add to what is our pepper growing playlist. So the playlist is really great. We're up to 11 episodes on it, and I take you through how what I select for seeds, starts, the whole process, all the way up to getting them out into the garden. And then, like I said, we'll continue to go and do some experimenting and having some fun and looking at different aspects of growing peppers to continue the series out in the next couple seasons too. But it's really fun. I love peppers. It's one of my favorite things out of all of the things I grow. Anyways, I'm going on and on here. We got questions. We got questions. People are asking questions.
That's fabulous. I do want to mention, just while you're mentioning peppers, though, that that we some time ago we had some pepper experts who also worked on those genetics, and so it's a good idea to go back into the archives and see that we had people who are experts at pepper breeding, and perhaps they even influenced Enoch to kind of go in this direction, and maybe they will influence you. So that's cool.
Yeah, well, one of our good friends, I'll just say this, one of our good friends who's on the show often and probably here coming up pretty soon too is Kang Star. Christopher Bransdahl as well too. Christopher and Kang come together a lot. They're kind of my round table buddies in a sense. But Kang has actually bred out and crossed and developed his own varieties of peppers, and I've tried growing a few of those different varieties too. So I've always kind of thought, man, that would be kind of cool to have having the Urban Gardener variety, or I don't even know what we would tag on to the name. It's still Sugar Rush Peach, but we'll add something to it, to kind of differentiate it. But I always thought, how cool would it be to do that? And then again, maybe, like I said, down the road, actually crossing and developing a new pepper variety.
Great.
It would just be great, wouldn't it?
Yes, fantastic. I'm going to switch to a question for someone in the audience again. Hobbies. This is a little off what you were talking about. She was asking about what is your favorite plant in that room, because you started with houseplants and evolved, while keeping the houseplants, evolved into food crops. So in that whole room, what is your favorite?
Oh man, now you're putting me on the spot. I actually got to say that in front of all of them now.
Hey, you asked me to take viewer questions.
No, it's actually really, it comes down to two of them for sure. Not one specifically. I mean, I like all the plants really, but right here, this here going up, and then there's another one right over here too. But these are spider plants. And you can see draping down from the spider plant are all of its little spiderlets, babies, a bunch of little babies kind of cascading or water falling down in a way through between those two desks there. But the spider plant, because that was my very first plant, my first propagation. Like I was mentioned before, when I was really young, my mom would teach me different ones. She had a spider plant with all the little spiderlets, and she had me go up there and pluck the one I wanted off, and then we put it into the little cup, and I watched it grow its roots each day for like a couple of weeks. I'd go out and look at it and see how much the roots were, and I'd ask her, "Oh, is it time to is it time yet? Is it time yet?" To put it in its own little pot so I could put it on my nightstand next to the bed, right? That was just kind of like I just remember just being so excited about doing that. So and then so we ended up transplanting it, putting it in a pot. Ended up, when it got big enough for that one, we did the whole transplanting into a bigger pot. And I remember that I think within like the next year or so from growing that plant, I had this big huge spider plant that we ended up having to take off of the nightstand and hang it up into the corner of the room because it got big and huge. But it was just one of those ones where it's like always kind of sits with you like, well, that was my first plant that I really grew myself. And I must have been maybe 5, maybe more like 6, maybe 6, 7 in that range of age. I was really young when we did that one. And then the next favorite one is this one right here. This big gray pot you see right here is pothos that I got in. I've always had plants, but there was this one period of time in my early 20s, huge life transition going on for me. So I was in a new city, a new place, and so I didn't have any plants or anything, but I was working at this place that was clearing out all of their plants out in the front area of their business, right? And putting in new plants. So they had all these new plants out in the front area of the business, and I was doing like trash running out the back of the building, and noticed that they had just a pile of just dead plants. That eventually I think it might have even been my chore or my task for that day was to clean that up or something, but there was one, everything was pretty much dead except for there was this one little vine that had just this tiniest little bit of green popping out of it, just like a little bit of thing coming out of it. And I was like, oh, it's still alive. It's still alive. And I said, can I take this? They're like, take whatever you want. And I was like, but that was the only thing I could find that was living out of the whole thing. I think it'd been out there a little while, but had this little green deal on it, and I took it home and babied it up until it started growing leaves and vining out and everything. And let's see, that was, I think, back in 1997 when I did that. So I've had this plant since, so what's that, 28 years now?
Oh, yes.
So 28 years from this tiny little thing. I've had that plant, and it's also, I've moved around with it. So it's been cut back. I've cut so many different propagations off of it and shared it with tons of friends over the years. So this plant's all over the place and lots of different friends' homes. My daughter has a piece of it in her home, and so yeah. So ultimately, I think that was one of my favorite plant, because it's the one I've had for so long. But my favorite kind of variety, in a sense, would be those spiders, just because of the history.
Yes, and for many people, they're a fairly simple plant to grow and fairly inexpensive to be able to find. Most people that I know started off with those spider babies of some generous friend or relatives saying, here's some plants, get you started,
Yeah, because they're just so easy to grow. Yeah, so easy to do. I'll say this on the spiders, though. The neighbor got me a couple of new varieties I don't have of the spider plant varieties. So like this one is one of the ones, like you got them where there's green on the outer edge and white going down the middle, which I think is these ones. Or no, these are the white on the edge with the green in the middle. They got me the opposite. So I got one that's cool like that. And then this other variety, which I've never had before. So I'm kind of excited about adding those in, as they're rooting right now. And I should have them hopefully added into the collection pretty soon. But yeah, I'm excited about that.
So I've just thrown out a prompt that was by Bowtie. He was saying to the audience, when did your gardening journey begin? And to basically start discussing that in the chat, because we're hearing about Enix. Perhaps we could hear about some of the people in the chat's gardening journey and how that developed for them.
Yeah, yeah. Right on.
Let's see. You are being a wonderful guest. I am super thrilled. I think I'm going to have you on the show again.
Oh, great. Awesome.
A return guest. Hooray.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
I love it. I love it. Guest on my own show. This is just so great.
Well, I decided it would be a quirky, odd thing to do, and I'm absolutely a quirky, odd person, and I'm grateful you were willing to let me go along with this. To kind of play a little game with some of you. Last week, Enoch had mentioned that he's letting me in some of the backstage areas, and Bowtie Life in the Garden especially likes to make fun of the idea that I am, the J-bot and AI taking over and stuff like that. So I thought it would be a little bit funny for the AI to actually take over this week as a fun thing when we had a bit of an opening in the show. So great. I'm just going to show another viewer question here. And this one is again from Bowtie. It said,
Okay.
if someone only has a balcony, what's a good first plant to grow? Oh, and I did want to say hi to that. I just missed somebody in the.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Food forest permaculture, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
So a shout out to him. I'm sorry I kind of missed that there and jumped into this.
Oh, I also see we've got Tony in here too.
Oh, really? Wow.
Good to see you, Tony. Awesome to have you here with us.
Great. He's a good longtime supporter of the show. And in fact, in a way, he's a bit of a shareholder of the show.
Right.
And we
almost have to consider that for sure, huh? An investor.
Well, we had some catastrophic equipment things that happened certainly weeks ago, maybe even months now, and it required quite an investment in order to get the equipment replaced. And the viewers of the channel stepped up in such a wonderful way. It was quite a heartwarming experience. And Tony in particular really tried to make sure that we were able to reach those goals so that essentially you guys saved the channel is what I'm going to call it, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to go to another viewer one.
Yeah.
Bowtie Life, he said.
Oh, yeah, for a balcony, yeah.
Someone only has a balcony. What's a good first plant to grow?
Yeah, so I guess best recommendation from my own experience is cucumber. That was my first one. But yeah, I think a lot of stuff. I mean, it just kind of depends on the size of your balcony and what you're dealing with as far as, the sun. If you're north facing building or something, and probably not the best. You're not probably getting very much sun. And although there's some things you can grow, but barring you're getting some decent sun, you got some all right space on there, you can grow a lot of stuff. I mean, some balconies you can get some good big old felt pots if you wanted to have a like a nice big tomato growing some big fat tomatoes on it. Don't want to do something too small of a pot, but if you got a nice space to put a big old pot on there, you could do that. But for me,
didn't you have a guest from the UK who sort of specialized in that?
Yeah. Cloud Gardener.
Yes.
He grows a lot of different stuff. He does all sorts of different things, whether he's growing some food things or ornamental stuff. He created like a little pond thing as well too. And there's just so many things, again, too, coming back to that idea of just kind of using your imagination. One of the big things too with a garden, and it's more so too on a balcony, is you're really having to think about space and plant spacing. How tight can plants be, and in order to grow well. So one of the things you want to do is you got to kind of visualize a full size plant. You might be starting with a start, or something small if you're going from seed. And so you want to visualize that plant as a full size plant, what space it's going to be taking, to be sure that you're not crowding it with too much stuff growing around, as it's going to want to spread out or get bigger, that sort of thing too. So I think that's a big key to a balcony space, is to really be thinking about plant spacing. But you can grow a lot of different stuff.
Yeah. In watching his videos, a couple of things that kind of came to mind for me was he mentioned that didn't occur to me, not having ever lived in a balcony situation, was the
Hmm.
wind, he said, is way
Oh,
more of a factor than you'd ever think up
especially for those that get
high.
higher. Yeah, when you get
Yes.
into those higher, hmm,
Yes. And he
that
said
is a huge
also the ability to get pollinators attracted if you're very high in the, in a
yeah.
high-rise building. He said it's an issue because they aren't normally hanging around in those spots, and the wind is part of that reason.
Yeah, you gotta think a little bit about maybe some self-pollination for
Yeah.
certain types of plants and things that you have to do.
Yes.
If you're
So
higher up though, like that, yeah.
you've mentioned a number of plants, the plant that you started with, the cucumber, the focus on the peppers. When you're thinking just off the top of your mind, what is your favorite things to grow of the vegetables?
The vegetable, oh, favorite things to grow.
Yeah.
And I always get, like I said, you always get me with those because I got like lots of favorites. But and we've just already covered peppers. I mean, that's number one. I love peppers, multiple pepper varieties. But I'd have to say right now, if we're just talking like, because it kind of changes from season to season as I'm kind of focusing on different things to get better at or to grow better. This last season for me was melons, and to grow a good melon in my space, whether it's a watermelon or like a cantaloupe or something like that, um, that's a big event for me. I think that's kind of what I'm like when I got a good one and I've grown a really nice one. I think that's when I'm like the happiest in my garden. Like I'm able to harvest a. I've had a couple of decent watermelons. One year I grew like an orange fleshed watermelon, which was really great. The cantaloupes I just love, are probably one of my favorites as far as that. And here I am talking fruits. You said vegetables, but
Well, I'm flexible. Yes.
but I think that's my favorite thing this last year, though, because we had lots of them, and I did kind of the smaller varieties. This variety called what is it, Minnesota Midget, I think is what it was. The cantaloupe, and then sugar babies. I grew for watermelons, and I got a bunch of really good ones this year. And so again, that's kind of like, oh yes, I really, that was kind of what me felt like I really succeeded throughout the garden season, was being able to at least accomplish those things.
Great.
Yeah, yeah.
I've got another viewer question, and I just want to say to the audience, you guys have been fabulous with the amount and how interesting your questions are.
Yeah,
I just hope we can reach them all today. They're just so fantastic, and we deeply appreciate that. So this
yeah.
is from Shawnee Grows. Your question is, what do you hope to achieve with your garden in the next few years?
Oh, yeah. I've always that's one of my biggest issues is I'm always so ambitious, and I've kind of had since we got new ownership here, and which has allowed me to kind of open up and do more with the spaces than what I really ever visualized being able to do here. But they're like, yeah, go at it, go do whatever you want to do. So really, so some of those things I like to achieve is getting our front yard garden beds going, because I really the visualization I have for like all this whole space is hopefully to eventually create kind of a teaching space in a way for the local community here. Maybe put on a few different kind of small space gardening classes and things like that. But what I would like to do is have a few. I'm thinking about 4 or 5 kind of raised beds coming out of the very front part of the yard to do kind of a micro community garden is kind of my idea. So I think that's one of my big achievements is if I can get that done. And that's where I invite some friends and neighbors, like, hey, come on over, like right across the way we have this apartment like complex kind of thing. And so go over there and say, hey, I got a couple of beds if you want to come over and garden and grow and learn how to garden, and maybe kind of start like a little small, just right off because it's just right off the front there. They can just come by and check and do whatever they need to at any time, and grow some things. So I think that's one of the cool things. That and chickens. I've been wanting chickens for years and years, and we've got a space in the back and a plan. We just got to come up with some funding to get it finished up and done. But I want to get some chickens going too in the back as well. But those are kind of my future plans for the space and what I want to do. And yeah, there's some other stuff. There's a lot more community oriented stuff, to kind of get back out into the community and help share some of the stuff that we're doing here. Because again, this all started, the whole channel and everything all started because people walk through here and see this, and I'd get these compliments and comments from lots of different folks who just kind of wander through here all the time. So I figure it's kind of a good opportunity to be able to take advantage of that, maybe bring some people here and kind of show them how to kind of replicate and do similar things for themselves.
Fantastic. This question is actually from Bowtie Life again. He's asking if there's any plants you've sworn off growing again. So is there plants that you would rather not grow that maybe are not to your taste, or they're difficult for your circumstances there, or ones that you've tried, as he's mentioned, and you just went, nah, no.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a real tough one. The way I can answer this question is to say that I do kind of often find something that I'm not successful with, or I've failed at, or whatever kind of situation, I'll go, oh man, I'm just not going to do that. So like what I'll say is I've sworn off like growing brassicas
Okay.
several different times. But I always come back and I always try again, and I always give it another shot. Sometimes I'll skip a season or so or whatever, and that sort of thing. So there are things, potatoes. I went a couple of years doing these container potatoes, and I went, well, the first couple of years, fantastic, had great results, really got me into it. I was like, oh, this is awesome. And then I had a couple of years, like 3 seasons in a row where it was just terrible. And I was just doing the same thing I did the first time, and building on that. And so I kind of, was like, I'm not doing that. And that's something I haven't done actually for several seasons now. But one of the things though that I've been thinking, like, okay, I want to get back and I want to do those again, and I want to give it another shot and do some more videos on container potatoes again. Because we spent like, that was the first 5 years of videos we had. I was showing people the different container potatoes and results that we had at the end of the year. And there's those ones though too that are just, you go the whole year, you grow these awesome plants, they're just so wonderful, and then you go and harvest them and they find out you got these little BBs in their dirt and there's nothing there. It's kind of all that time and anticipation, and it ended up being nothing. So
well, we happen to have someone in the audience who that is one of his focus.
I know.
We have Tony from Simplified.
I know. Tony was such a big inspiration for that.
Growing, he has a whole wealth of information on his channel that would help you and any of the other people who are thinking in that direction. I've alternated.
He was a big inspiration to those early potato gardens. Specifically, was Tony and what he did with his potatoes and stuff. Yeah.
He's so generous about sharing his information, and he's very forthright about when it doesn't go well. And I really appreciate the content creators for gardening who choose to let you see everything, including the mess or the aspect that really didn't work out. Because
you go back and check out like one of the third or fourth year. I think it was about the third year of growing potatoes in my containers, where again, it's the thing, you get the camera on and you go, okay, we're going to dump this over and see what we got. And then it's, oh my God, that's all I got.
Less than I started with. What? Potato alchemy is not working for me.
Yeah. I'm sure there was some sort of error on my part through the process or something that didn't that made it not go very well. But yeah, I kind of feel silly saying that in front of Tony here in the chat. But yeah, that was the one where I kind of was like, potatoes. I have actually grown the last season or two in our in-ground space. We've had some potatoes growing in ground, but the container potatoes were the ones I just really had fun with.
I've alternated between in-ground and containers, and kind of like raised beds. I've kind of hopscotch to each depending on space and time and what's available to me. And I kind of go, and I'm not sure I would say any one of those is my favorite. I've never gone as far as Tony has, though, in terms of how specialized and focused he was on learning how to do container potato
Oh
growing
yeah.
in such a specific way. I
Yeah.
appreciate his dedication, but that ain't me. No,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I maybe get halfway there in my experimentation and working with everything and doing that, but, no, that's, again, it's why having videos like Tony's out there, and his has been around since, again, like I said, since I first started gardening. He was one of the first people I found out there. There was only really a handful of gardeners doing things and sharing their gardening experiences. And like I said, Tony was one of those first real inspirations to some of my growing and why I even tried or attempted to grow potatoes in containers and all of that. But no, I mean, we still did. I still did some really good ones, and I'm sure we'd have some really good ones in the in front of us and all of that. I just got to get back on the horse when it comes to growing them in containers.
so we've got another question, and this is kind of going back a few minutes to when you were talking about your gardens and the idea of community building and how public they were and how that kind of moved you along. Shawnee
Yeah.
Rose asks, what locally would you like to see going in your community that you would want to be part of, like building a park food forest, classes, workshops, free plants and seeds, community spaces? Like, what aspect of being involved with your community and gardening appeals to you as a new direction? Doesn't have to be right away. Maybe it's a little further down the road.
Yeah, well, there's several things. Again, a lot of them coming down to what I kind of want to do with this space and inviting people in. But I will say there was one thing that a project that I want to just kind of came to me over the last several weeks is just here locally in Southern Oregon, here in Medford, I think specifically, we voted on a tax, kind of a, a hotel tax, so that the city could
Oh,
get some funding to develop a project that they want to develop. They call it the Creekside Quarter here
oh,
in our city, and it's going to be it looks really cool. I'm a big baseball fan, as everybody knows, so includes a minor league baseball stadium that they want to build to bring in a baseball team and all of that. So I'm really down for all of that. But one of the things I noticed in this rendition that they put together to kind of show us, kind of what it would look like in downtown. So it's kind of like an artist's rendition of the whole project together. And what I noticed is on the rooftops of these buildings, they had kind of some gardens or some plants, not necessarily, not full on garden growing, but some plants and stuff up on these rooftops. And I know it's an artist rendition, so they're trying to make something look really nice.
mhm.
And so I'm immediately thinking, well, I wonder if they're really thinking about doing something like that. Or maybe what I want to do is reach out to those developers as they get the project going and it becomes finalized and all of that, and say, hey, when you get this up, I would like to work with you in order to build a kind of rooftop garden feature that you could have as part of the whole thing
Oh,
down there, kind of
wow.
so it'd be a new project, be new people coming in and checking things out, but then we could have a cool rooftop garden that people can check out as a part of it all, and do something like that to kind of promote gardening and growing and other things as well too. So
Wow.
yeah, I think that would be cool. So that's something that actually came to my mind just recently, these last few weeks, as we were voting on this funding for this project. So I hope the project goes through, and if it does, I think I'm going to reach out and try to see if I can't get a part of that in that aspect, because it would be cool.
So, I know it's hard to follow a link, in a banner, but I'm pointing out that Adam Burley provided a link for
Oh
users
yeah, Adam's here
who would
locally. He
like to
knows.
know more about that.
I'm sure he's
And
heard all about that.
yeah, and of course, you've got the connection with MBC, who has years of experience with rooftop gardening,
Yep.
about the different aspects of it. He has Noble Rot that he manages for a restaurant as a rooftop garden, and
Yeah.
he would have all kinds of hints
Oh yeah, I'd be leaning on him for sure.
do. So yeah, so I just wanted to highlight that for people to notice that in the chat. So that's fantastic. Great. You guys are really bringing it with the questions. You're making it so easy for me. I am giving you all verbal hugs because you're making being a host so much easier by providing these really excellent questions. I'm going to go kind of in that direction a little bit. Muddy Puddles Farm is going into being live is really terrifying. Where would you recommend getting started? Go for it? Guest appearances? Like, how do you kind of get started with this
Right.
thing?
So doing live streaming. Again, you kind of got it there in the question, it's really kind of about go for it. That was the whole, not just live streaming and all that, but that was the whole bit of advice I was getting from everybody when I was first just coming up with the idea of maybe doing my own YouTube channel, or just sharing in general and doing that sort of stuff, was to not put too much thought into, what it is or how you're doing things, or don't, like they were like, don't get too involved in the editing, make that a process and learn as you go. And just the biggest thing is because a lot of us are like, well, we like to see the final vision, have it all ready to go, get everything ready, and then we'll get started. And then that kind of gives us the excuse to like push it off because I'm not ready yet. I don't got this piece put together yet, or I don't got this thing learned yet. So I don't know how to put that when it comes time to doing that, and really forget all that stuff. When it comes down to it, you just got to go for it. And most folks can't, because I don't have them on the live page anymore, but I spent years just live streaming myself, just right here. In fact, it was more in the corner of this back there. I'd sit on a little stool and get my little phone camera out and get on and do live streaming and just going for it, because I didn't know what it was going to mean or where it was going to go from there. And then just slowly but surely over time, starting to figure some things out, like Christopher and Kang. Kang was actually, I was like trying to figure out what I could do to get people involved and maybe have a guest or something like that. And I didn't know quite how to do that. And that's when Christopher hooked me up with Kang, and we've all kind of got together to try a three-way live stream, many years ago. And that was my first time doing that. So it was, again, too, it's just over time, though, kind of jumping into these newer things. So there was my first time trying with a guest and working that out. And then I did a couple of other things with a couple of other folks, Gardner Scott included in that, and Masilla Delana and a few others, Kang as well, too. But they kind of helped me figure out kind of doing some on-air type of interviewing. So that was kind of where I caught on to like, okay, well, I could really, more so than just the little three-way discussion we were having with that live stream, direct interviewing someone and asking them questions and trying to, learn something. So that was kind of the very beginning of where all of this came up. I was like, well, if we could do that and integrate this and do these sort of things, then we could take everything we've learned from all of these years now and put together a fun show. And again, even when it came to that point, was like, I knew I had a visualization and this is where I wanted it to be, but I couldn't quite get it all the way there yet. I just had to kind of jump in and get going, so we took our original concept and went after it and just built on it and changed and done things over time to where I think we've built kind of a formula now, and there's still things to get better at and more things to add on that I originally thought of when we were originally doing the show, but we weren't prepared to do yet. You know what I mean? So there's still more things to come as far as this whole concept and this idea that I came with. But really, like I said, it's really about just jumping in. And again, like I was telling you, Jay, is really, is that, for one, you slow things down as you're going live. If it's your first time, just kind of tell yourself to slow it down, take it easy. Don't worry, about getting everything perfect, all of that sort of stuff. Don't worry about, the timing or these sort of things, because, those are things that you'll figure out as you get going and you get more used to doing doing this sort of stuff. So, just kind of let it, just let it go, let it be, go for it. And then, you'll figure things out along the way. And I think that's where the best stuff comes, though, is that you're figuring it out through the process instead of trying to have it all figured out before you start the process.
So Shawnee Grows basically is playing off that same idea with her question. Given some of the incredible guests you've had, do you get those pre-show jitters? Do you find yourself doing anything extra to prepare for those episodes, or is it routine by now? So you've touched on some of those areas, but I'll still give you a chance in case you want to further discuss that particular thing. It's in the same theme.
Yeah. In fact, I think I was talking to you about this, pretty much this yesterday, was that I still, every single show, have to get myself kind of pumped up. I still almost got to tell myself, like, okay, we're getting ready to go. We're getting to go live, all that. Here we are, well over 150 plus episodes of this show, and I still have to kind of like set myself, get ready, I'm about to be live. Let's do this. If it's going to be fun, kind of pump myself up a little bit. But when it is a bigger guest, when it is someone that, again, I'll take it back to like Mark, when I got Mark on the first time, or James Prigioni, or some of these other folks who, in a way, I guess I see them as more successful, and they're, they've got their own big audiences that they're used to doing all of this. So I kind of look up to those folks as inspiration and everything, but then to have them in my space, is different. So I have to, before the show, really pump myself up. I get really nervous for some things, especially when it comes to some of those types of guests. So yeah, that definitely happens. But as I was saying, it a lot of it really is just kind of like, in most folks don't see it. You'll see that original thing that opens up the show. I've got a little clip that's playing and everything. That's officially live. Once that thing plays, I know I'm officially live. So I'm behind the scenes like, all right, let's go stretch real quick. Okay, we're ready. Okay, here we go. It's about to go. And then all of a sudden, blam, as soon as that thing's over, I'm on automatically. You know what I mean? So it's go time. And then you just do it, and you just go about it and have fun. But also another thing is, and I say this a lot, and I mention it to you a lot off the show as well too, is that being here on the weekends and hanging out with all of you guys and doing this show is really one of the funnest things I get to do in my life. I look forward to it every single week. It's huge for me. It's to get down and sit in this seat and get in front of this camera and start this live stream is a huge deal for me each week. But I still got to kind of pump myself up and get ready. And like you said, those bigger guests, yeah, that'll get me a little more nervous. And again, you can watch those shows and see those nerves. I still probably show them pretty well, as hopefully, I'm not a professional when it comes to all this sort of stuff. I'm just someone who's done it so many times. I've kind of got a routine, you know what I mean? I'm not a professional at all. So when it comes down to it, I still get nervous. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I seem to recall, and I don't know the exact time frame, but you gave a fairly heartfelt video a number of months ago about how gardening in particular, but also this direction of going through these live streams and videos really made a big change in your life. And you let yourself be fairly vulnerable in letting people know that it was part of an evolving journey for you.
Yeah. Again, this whole thing really is, and leading up to all of this has been that kind of life-changing journey of trying to do something new and different than what I was used to, and challenging myself. And again, too, part of it, putting myself out there. I think I've also mentioned to you and others before that, I've kind of always, since I was a young kid, had this like dream of like being on a TV show, maybe acting, or maybe some sort of other type of TV show, something I never pursued in any sort of direction other than maybe being in a couple of plays when I was in junior high. I never did get into drama later on after that or anything, but but that was as close as I got to that sort of thing, and putting myself out there in a way that was public, in a way, other than a few like speaking things that I did in high school and college that kind of let me know, okay, I'm okay in front of crowds. You know what I mean? That was kind of a, you know, something that I had kind of in my back pocket, I suppose, as it came to, well, all these folks are out there doing these cool YouTube channels that I really enjoy doing, and I like watching and learning from, and all of that. I got all these people who are like, you got these really unique spaces and these things and videos I can't find of this sort of stuff out there. Maybe you should make your own. And again, it comes back to that other piece of advice too about going for it, you know. But the idea of putting myself in front of a camera, you know, was really a big one, you know. And again, all of this stuff from gardening to doing this channel has just been a huge something that's really helped me out in my journey in going into this part of my life, this part of my or this chapter of my life, in a sense. So it's been awesome. It's been great. And I don't even know, again, too, if I'm answering the question or just blabbing on. So
Nope, you're
you go ahead and
fantastic.
you go ahead.
You seem to have sort of some unique skills that sort of many garden channels don't really utilize, in basically turning this into a talk show format. Did you have some kind of background or training in things that are related to this, or did you just learn it on your own?
Yeah. So again, this kind of comes to a convergence of some different experiences in my life prior. Big one was in high school into college. My career path I wanted to get into was journalism or photojournalism. One of the big things, maybe even just to be a cameraman, was kind of one of my ideas for a news station, but it had to be newspapers, news, that sort of thing was kind of something I really enjoyed. I edited some newspapers, was a photography editor and photojournalist for my high school newspaper, my college newspapers. We did some stuff. I even won some awards in photography and things like that, all the way back in those days. And then I kind of, life happened and I went into a different direction and started doing other things. Many years later, after I started gardening and the kids all grown up and I got to think about what I'm going to do next, and not quite knowing what that's going to be. I had all of this cool garden stuff going on, like I said, and people talking about how neat they think it is. And I had all of this kind of want to be this journalist or tell stories or do news, in a sense, back in the day. And so I was like, how can I kind of converge those things together? The photography and the creativity and editing and then also to be able to kind of, because originally it wasn't about me just kind of sharing my own gardens, but I really wanted to follow along the lines of folks like John Kohler, one of my good friends nowadays. But I watched his videos for years of him going to visit places and doing these interviews and things. And that's where I was like, oh, that really activated that journey I was on years ago and kind of reactivated. It was like, well, wait a minute, here's a way to maybe kind of do some journalism or storytelling when it comes to the gardening world and the gardening community that I started getting so familiar with, with all my gardening and everything. So it's kind of a mix of all that stuff that kind of came back together, as I was planning or thinking about what I could do next. And it was either that or I was going to go into market gardening.
Okay.
And I chose to put a camera in front of me and do that instead.
So we have another question from Bowtie Life. And I just want to say before I read this one, the audience has been fabulous. You guys are really leading us with so many fantastic questions. If I don't get to your question, it is no offense. We are spoiled for choice in the number.
Let me try to keep the answers a little shorter and we can get through some of these.
Well, I will do my best to get through as many as I can, but I just wanted to give that heads up and a thank you to all of you for doing that. So his question is, what's something that viewers don't see that's part of running a garden channel?
Oh, Yeah, well, the big thing is the time. I would say, you don't get this everything is kind of like, you're watching videos and they're all put together and everything's all set, but the time it takes to do, again, I wanted to create something that was kind of unique of my own and that sort of thing. So I created like my own formula over years and put it together a certain way. So it's the time it takes to make sure I got all those different pieces that I need to edit together to make a video. The framing of the there's a lot of thought that goes into each of these different little things, that we don't think of as we're thinking about getting into this sort of stuff. So there is some time to it, and the idea that you got to go out and garden too, and then you're trying to film it as well. That can make some precarious gardening practices, because you're trying to make sure you're covering things and you're getting that footage, so you can put it together for everybody to see in the videos you're trying to put out. So I mean, I don't know if that's not necessarily something you see, but or don't see, I guess, because you're not seeing the time, because everything's all put together that it
Mhm.
takes to put into it all. The mistakes. One of the fun. Okay, so here's something I'll say, as far as this one here goes. For years, and I only recently, over the last couple of seasons, stopped doing it, which I feel like at some point I want to go back to it, because it does take a little bit of extra time. But I would, as I'm editing, I would clip out the outtakes, where I
Okay.
make a mistake, or I fumble over a word, or I say something completely wrong, or an airplane totally interrupts me while I was really in a flow or something, just all sorts of different little aspects of these funny little things and that happen, that you would normally just kind of cut out because you're just trying to make this certain video. And so I used to do, at the end of all of my older videos, at the very end, if you paid attention, after the little outro happens, between the outro and the end screens, there was little clips of outtakes that I would do. So those were like a lot of the little pieces that people didn't get to see. So I'll have to think about maybe getting back to doing that at some point in time for
Mhm.
future videos. But those are always fun too.
Hmm. One thing that occurs to
Mhm.
me is, and that became an issue for you a few months ago, is that many people may choose to start with live streams and doing a video channel as a bit of a hobby, a bit of a lark. But if you start to get more into it, if you start to get more serious, the time involved and the money involved in order to get the correct equipment,
Yeah.
upgrade the equipment, to replace the equipment when things go wrong or they get outdated, or software updates mess up the technology and stuff like that, that's money. And sometimes it is serious money if you want to
Mm,
be serious about this business. And for some people, it goes from being, oh, yes, this is a little hobby I have and putting money into it, into a real dent into, someone's income potentially. And then you have to decide, which some channels I have seen recently, including yours, is I have to get a little more serious about this. I have to look at ways that this channel, this hobby, can at least be self-supporting. Not necessarily get
mhm.
rich off it, but not for it to dig into
Yeah.
income with expenses. And I've seen a number of channels like Bowtie Life in the Garden, and I've seen um, uh, Shawnee Grows and stuff, looking at different ways that they need to essentially monetize the hobby, so
Mhm.
it's at least not digging into their own personal expenses. We don't want Shawnee's kids to go without because
Yeah.
he's doing us the gift of live streams and providing information for us. So it's something that channel owners do need to think about. That's another part of it, besides the skill
Is it?
uptake, the
Yeah.
time it takes, and there are
How
rules.
much of it is a hobby for you that you really can, allow yourself to do within your own budget? Because that's a big thing, it really is. And we did that live stream a while back ago, where I went through and showed everybody, how much this channel makes,
Mhm.
and I'll have to do that again sometime. We'll put together another one of those or something to put it together a little bit better, so that people can have that type of information. But I've made some money on this channel. It's not very much.
Mhm.
And when you look at the expenses and costs of all the different projects and the different things that we've done over the years, the money that I've made through YouTube, all I generate from this channel is the YouTube ad revenue. And you look at that versus what I've spent, and I'm, I'm really in debt. No, I'm not. I mean, it's just again, too, it was just a lot of this stuff. It was stuff that I had to pay for. I had to do, whether it was taking trips places and doing different things that I wanted to do as far as content, like you said, cameras and equipment and things like that. So again, I utilize every bit of money that the channel makes back into itself. It all gets spent on itself in a sense, but I still put in a lot of my own when it comes down to it. And as we saw earlier this season, with my budget as constrained as it's been the last couple of years, it's not quite like the first several years. When I first was going, I had a different, income and budget, and was able to do a bit more for things than I'm able to now. So we are really kind of constrained to what we're able to bring in as a channel, as a show. And I've got to start looking at those types of aspects of things. And one of those is doing what all the other channels and folks out there do, is one, maybe look at memberships, but also looking for donations and folks from things from folks out there who enjoy this and who like watching this show, and like the different guests that we get to talk to each week and all of that, and the videos and all that sort of stuff. And again, if people bringing in and helping support all of this, and from that we can also look at being able to do more things, and to be able to have more content available through more different projects, and different aspects of the show that we're able to do, depending on kind of what we can pull together as far as that goes. So that's still kind of a new place for me to be at. I've never been kind of the YouTuber who was seeking to get funds from things and the audience and all of that. But I think we're at that point where if we want to continue to do some of these projects, like I've already talked about, I want to go to Seattle for the Flower and Garden show coming up this next year, and try to see what we can do for that, and those are things that are going to cost some money. And hopefully we can, do some things and all of that. And I don't want anybody, and I've always said this, especially through our fundraising before, I don't want anybody to feel guilty because they can't. I'm not, this is just, these are just a call out to those folks who do have the ability to bring something to the show, so that we can do some more stuff and support our show. And if you really like what you watch, as you said earlier about Tony and our previous fundraiser, come and be an investor, come invest in the show, and doesn't have to be much either. Any little bit always counts and always helps, and all of that too. So again, that's something that's going to be more for me to get used to doing and all of that. But again, just a part of doing this sort of thing at this type of level though too.
And one thing I'm just going to mention about that is basically a lightning strike took out the channel, took out every piece of the equipment, and it took a while.
Craziest thing
together. And the thing was that figuring that out, the equipment was damaged and semi-functional, but trying to find out on a limited budget what equipment was damaged, how damaged, what was replaceable. And again, the viewers came through, saved the channel. But it wasn't till later we found out that there was actually some kind of functional thing going on with the main camera for the show. And it was causing some issues. So very recently that had to be replaced. And like I said, as a hobbyist, eventually it's taking from your life. So I won't harp on the issue, but any kind of donations, any kind of tips towards helping with supporting the show, that you might want to do back channel or something, we are very interested in your advice on those things. So great.
Absolutely.
Fabulous. I'm just going to go back to viewer questions here. And again, if I don't get to your question, I'm trying to get to as many as I can. We're going to go to Shawnee Grows again. She's asking, what advances in technology are on your wish list for 2026 in the urban garden? So we're talking about equipment for the show, but also she's talking about gardening technology. So water timers, sensors, weather station. Do you kind of go into that stuff, or do you garden on a more basic level?
No, it's very important that I figure out in these next couple of seasons getting a good water timer situation. So that, I mean, having a good weather station or timer situation and drip system put around a lot of the containers and back spaces that we have is going to be kind of one of my real big projects that I need to accomplish because again, we're talking time. One of my biggest issues with most anything, whether it's the channel, videos, the show, the garden, all that sort of stuff, is time. The time it takes to do things. And when you don't have a good water timer situation set up for the type of outdoor container garden spaces that I have, the more time it takes of mine, because especially during the summertime, I got to be out there once, twice a day, sometimes out making sure things aren't drying up or, everything's watered properly. So that's huge for me. I think over the next couple of seasons is getting something like that set up. I did try and attempt one setup about 5 seasons back or so, and it worked for a season or two, but I didn't keep up with it. And so I've got to basically take what I set up there and upgrade it, reset it up, get it going, but get it on a good timer situation. Because when you want to grow as much as I do and do things with the spaces that I have, you got to be able to optimize your time the best way possible. And as much as I love just watering the garden and hanging out watering, I do really enjoy that. It is really going to be helpful to have a system set up to where I don't have to do it all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually help other gardeners in my community garden plot, and I've had a few of them a little testy about how I use a sprinkler, which I admit is not the most efficient form of watering. However, sometimes because people are away on vacation, injured, ill, whatever, I'm trying to water 8, 10, sometimes 12 garden plots. And there's a certain reality to how many spaces I can be in. I'm weeding in one while watering in another, moving that over, hopscotch here and there. And, it's not the most efficient system, but it's what we've got for now. I'm gradually wanting to improve the watering system for my own garden, but because we have winter conditions here, I have to be, and a limited budget, I have to be mindful of what's actually going to work in the systems. So that's part of what's going on with my situation. Let's see here. This is sort of last call for questions. If anyone wants any questions to get possibly answered, the show's just about finished. So if you want to do that, the best way to get my attention is to put it in all caps, because you guys are a very chatty bunch. But I'll be honest with you,
That's
my
awesome.
attention is split right now, and you have to kind of shout out with those capitals so that I can actually see what's going on. So back to habitual hobbies again. What early gardening mistake do you still think about? She said when I was new, she sold flowers. She put 5 dahlia seedings into one hanging basket and sold them for cheap. Whoosh. And I didn't know that they made tubers. So
Right.
personal thing. What's a gardening mistake that you kind of lingers with you a little bit?
Yeah, I share this one quite a bit, and I think I did recently, and maybe even probably have to tomorrow as well too. But mine that always lives with me is when I was growing my first garlic.
Okay.
Because I knew enough to get get the bulbs, take the cloves, and that you planted the cloves into into the soil. And I went one of my very first gardens. In fact, this is all the way back to when I was growing at the balcony garden, and then I realized my mistake, so that when I moved here for my first garden here, I had well, I kind of continued the mistake just a little bit more. It took me a couple of seasons, basically, is what I'm trying to say, to get it figured out and what I really needed to do. And I took those cloves literally, and I would stick them in the little 6-packs as I'm putting seeds in there to grow different plants and get little plants started and everything. I stuck those cloves into the 6-packs to get little garlic starts versus putting them just directly out into the garden bed. And then the next part of that mistake, though, too, is when I moved down here and I'm like, okay, well, I can put them in these different spaces that I have around the house here. I was really just bunching them all together, and I wasn't doing the proper spacing that I needed to do for them. So I was growing them in these, I might as well have just stuck a whole bulb in the ground, basically, instead of just putting them like, half an inch apart from each other and trying to put like 20 of them into a little square. I think I have a picture somewhere. I don't know. I have to really dig to go find it, where it was just me taking like, oh, look at this. This is my first little garlic garden. And me, with all these cloves where I even had them half sticking out of the ground even. It was terrible. It was terrible. I had so much to learn and figure out, but that one still lives with me as I've learned to properly grow garlic over the years. It's one of my favorite things to grow, but I always remember back like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. Just,
But you move
that
on.
one lives. That one's the one that lives with me for sure.
So I'm just going to highlight this. Adam Burley was talking to Phil's Figs, and he's here today. That's fantastic. And he was talking. He seemed a little confused, and Bowtie was clarifying to him, it's a facilitator takeover show at Phil's Figs. It's Jay Dixon's show today. So I'm just, for those of you who may be confused, I will just throw this out at you right now. This is, whoops, let's just see here. Oops, almost. Still learning.
Oh, no problem. You got it.
This is JBot host protocol activated. One of the jokes is the people call me the JBot because I'm very quick at finding data and information to further educate and inform people in the chats. And this is not a hostile. It's a friendly takeover in which we're switching positions, where I'm being the host and Enoch is the guest.
Yeah, having a little fun with the show today for sure.
Silliness, yes, because some of the jokes about AI. Oh, by the way, the background with why I am the JBot, I'll just briefly cover this. In another forum where I actually help facilitate, a new person in the chat was very aggravated by how quickly I gave responses to answers and was furious, is the term, furious that they were using AI. And Bowtie Life stepped up and said, she's not AI, she's our JBot. And that is that I'm an actual human being, but I happen to have this ability to fairly quickly sort and process information for the benefit of the audience in the chat and the benefit of the channel, I'm hoping. So that's what's going on today. Is in case some of you are wondering what's going on, is I am basically taking over. And that's probably about all the time that we've got for questions today. Is there
one more? We'll have to do one more here because I see David's having some fun here, and a couple of others are jumping in here with this too. As David puts in, how many hats does Enoch own? And then Muddy Puddles Farm says, how many hats does Enoch have?
Oh, wow.
And then I see David jumps in his other account. And then another one. And then we got Stan Dollar Digital in here as well, too.
That's Dave again.
Yeah. And it looks like his wife's getting in on it as well.
Oh, fabulous. Yes. Okay. So I saw one or two of those. Not to ask. Do you have a number? Is there an inventory
I
list?
would say I don't know if I have an exact number. I will just say somewhere around 50.
Whoa.
Maybe a little more.
Wow.
Yeah. I actually have them all kind of hanging up on the wall in my room. So I take one off, put one on, take one off, put it back on, but around 50 of them or so.
Yes.
And that kind of that started happening years before I started the channel and everything too. Is I just started collecting and getting a couple of these hats. I got one of them as a gift from a friend, and then I bought a couple of myself, and then folks noticed I was wearing them, so then I got a couple more from, like, I think my daughter got me one, and then so from there I just started getting more of them. I was like, okay, so when I started my channel I was like, oh, how interesting, I can wear a different hat for every video.
Back channel before the show, as Enoch was kind of like holding my hand through this process and kind of talking me through the practicalities of being the host for the show, but also just, you know, managing some of the stress in that. One of the things that we discussed is my partner had mentioned the idea of, oh, if the host wears one of those flat caps, you should too. And it was part of the idea of I'm taking over and fully being the host. But as you can see, that did not happen. Yes.
Yeah, exactly, right. I was like, that's way to take it one step further for sure.
So was there any other questions that you happen to notice that you would like to answer, or anything else that you would like to discuss before we wrap up for today?
Oh, let's see here. I don't know. I think we went through most of those questions, right? I don't know. I'm kind of looking through myself here, but yeah, again, everybody brought really great questions today. And just like most of our shows around here, it's like, where did the time go?
Disappeared entirely.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I hand it back over to you to finish out the show in your usual way? Is that okay if I abandon my hosting duties?
Oh yeah, that'll be fine. Absolutely. I can always finish up my own show, I suppose, right? But no, this has been really fun though, too. Again, really thanks, Jay, for having fun with this, and for everybody else out there too. If you did join us late, or during our discussion here or whatever, and didn't see the beginning of the show, you want to go back and check out the beginning of the show, because Jay totally did everything from our opening video to opening the show out, and did a great, wonderful job at doing that. So big hand to Jay today for being our guest host of the show, the very first guest host of the Let's Get Growing show. And she was really nervous about it and getting things going and everything, but did an amazing job and all of that too. So if you didn't get a chance to go check out the beginning of the show, definitely go back and check out the replay there so you can see the beginning for sure.
Yeah, there's so many elements to create a educational, informative, and entertaining show, and to do it in the way that Enoch does. For those of you that have tried to be content creators, you'll kind of grasp that there are so many elements to do all of the different banners, transitions, videos, and things that he does. I've been helping him for quite some time, and I am still awestruck of what all it takes to do that, essentially up until recently as a one-man band. And holy cow, is it ever intimidating how much there is. Now, saying that doesn't mean that some of you can't be excellent content creators, take a few risks, try on your own, decide that you're going to ease your way into doing lives and stuff. Please, there's space for all of you. And that's one of the reasons why we try and promote other channels and try and support you the best that we can. But it was a leap.
It was fun, and like I said, to just have fun with it and to do it no matter how it turns out. I was, again, like most of the time, I always get, as we mentioned earlier, I do get nervous about getting these things started up and doing this myself, but in the long run, we just kind of go for it.
Yes. So
Excellent.
I'm going to just turn this over to Enoch now, as he can, finish out the show. We do urge you to stick around as he promotes the show that will be happening for tomorrow, and going through the usual steps. I'm going to hand the reins back over to Enoch now.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Jay. Really appreciate you hosting our show today. Really fun discussion. And again, we'll see you here real soon.
You were an excellent guest. I will have you here again.
Excellent. All right. Perfect. Hey gardeners, thanks for tuning in to our show today. We'll be right back at it here in just a moment. I just wanted to take a second here to highlight our regular videos and features here on the Urban Gardener channel. Our weekly garden journals, and our incredible featured visits. All right. Here we are back at it again. What a fun show today. I mean, how about that, you guys? Jay did an amazing job being our guest host today for the show. And how interesting and fun was it for me to get into the guest seat today on my own show. So what a fun way to have a show today. And again, thanks to Jay for taking the time to do that. And like I said, if you didn't get a chance to see the beginning of the show, the whole opening and all that sort of stuff that I normally do, you'll want to go back and check out Jay. And she did such a wonderful job going through everything and getting that stuff down. And it is kind of a different way of looking at and seeing things, though, too. You know, I've never watched anybody try to perform or do the the types of things that we do to get the show started and going, and to work through it at all and all of that too. So again, I guess I don't see it as much because I do it myself, but it's so much different that when you get to take a step back and kind of view in and watch someone else try to do what you're doing here and everything. But really kind of cool, really fun, and I really appreciate all of you too for being here as well and hanging out with us for all of this fun today. But let's go through this real quick here. Again, I'll just kind of mention again, if you didn't get the chance to check out last Saturday's show, definitely go back and check out last Saturday's show. We had Andrew Millison with us. I mean, this was just a really, really great conversation. Talk about the question earlier that came up about kind of different guests and people that come on and whether I get more nervous for other folks than others. Andrew was one of those guys that, again, someone I've followed, I really admire. I just really love the type of content he puts out. I've been following him for years. And he was, again, one of those guests that when they agree to come on the show, I kind of get a little extra nervous for, because there's someone that I just really been wanting to talk to and to have on the show. And then, of course, last Sunday was the second Sunday of the month. And that always means we've got our good friend Gardner Scott from the Gardner Scott channel on with us to answer all of your gardening questions for our Ask Gardner Scott Sunday edition. So that is always good. If you didn't get a chance to check that out, just you want to learn some things about gardening, definitely check out those conversations. Scott teaches us so much through answering all of your questions. And then remember, again, Saturday and Sunday, that means we're back again here tomorrow for the Sunday edition, and that means it's the third Sunday. If Scott was on last Sunday, being the second Sunday, today's or tomorrow's the third Sunday then, and that means it's time for our monthly gardening book club, where we get our good friend Mr. NBC joining with us here. Can't wait to see our good friend NBC, another great co-host of the show here. We'll have him back with us, talk about what's going on in the garden, and to feature our just really awesome book this month, The Garlic Companion by Kristen Graves. Kristen will be joining with us to talk about this just really great book, all about garlic, full of tons of really great garlic recipes. There's a ton of those in there, some recipes that I gotta try out myself as well too. But it's just a really great book, really awesome author. You'll definitely not want to miss out tomorrow's book club conversation. And then for The next couple of weeks here on the Let's Get Growing show, we don't really have much planned, and I haven't discussed much of any of this, but there's a lot of things going on outside of the show and all that sort of stuff that we got so far into our end of season plans, and then I kind of was like, you know what, let's just kind of we're just going to kind of hang out a little bit. Maybe there'll be some more of Jay, maybe some more of others. I do have planned, though, coming up here as we get into December. December will be kind of a run of what will be our final shows of the 2025 year as we run up to the end of the year and the holidays. We'll take our holiday break, and then we'll be right back at it in the mid-January. And we'll go over all of that sort of stuff in the coming weeks about what's going to be going on. We've got some announcements that we're going to be making about what's coming up here this next year as well, too. So we've got a bunch of plans for those shows in December. But for these next couple of weeks and last weeks of November, we're just going to kind of do some hangouts here and just kind of hang out with each other. And like I said, we'll do a community show coming up here as well as when we get into December. So we'll plan and talk about that coming up here. So some real just kind of casual conversations and hangouts, more opportunities to ask some questions. If you want to talk to me, ask some questions. You didn't get something answered today, or you thought of something afterwards and you're like, hey, I wish I could have got that answer in today during the conversation. Well, you'll have an opportunity over our casual conversations over the next couple of weeks here too, to ask some more questions and talk about all sorts of stuff. And that'll be, again, too, one of the things I'd love to hear, though, too, and maybe you can think about this as we get into the next couple of weeks yourselves for some homework for everybody, is think about some really awesome guests and folks that you might like to see coming up this next year, for this next season. I want to have a nice packed year this next year with lots of new guests. Maybe let me know too. You can get into the comment section in the replay, or you can come back and let me know too. Maybe I'll remember to ask again in our upcoming shows. But let us know maybe who some of your favorite guests that we've had on already that you would like to see back on the show, that I can make sure we get back on the show for this next year as well too. So all sorts of stuff. I want to hear suggestions. I want to hear all that. And I see, oh, awesome, Jay just popped up our email address there at the Urban Gardener at mail.com, not Gmail. Always got to make sure I emphasize that, but it's at mail.com, the Urban Gardener at mail.com. You can send any of these sort of suggestions or ideas or things like that. Maybe you've got a show idea or something like that. I love to hear any of this. Again, this really is, a show that I love sharing with the whole community. We got more and more people who've come on board to be a part of this show with us. And I really look at you viewers and you folks who watch and listen each and every week as a big part of this show. And this is really our show. When it comes down to it, I tell all of our contributors that this isn't just my show. If you're going to be a contributor, you're going to be on here doing things, this is your show too. And that really goes for all of you out there as viewers too. This is your show. What would you like to see on this show? Who would you like to see? Who would you like to see back? What are the types of things that you'd like to see us maybe add to the show? Different ideas and things like that. I'm totally up for it. I'd love to hear from you. So either drop in a comment, come back and let me know next week, send an email to the Urban Gardener at mail.com, but definitely let me know for sure. So right on, everybody. Again, it's just really great to have you all here. Johnny says homework. I love it. Yeah, absolutely. I definitely want to hear from all of you, and especially those of you who really enjoy the show and got some ideas maybe. And no idea is a bad idea, like they say, no questions are bad questions. So same with the ideas. I'll love to hear any idea that you might have, any suggestion, again, to previous guests, future guests, channels I might not have heard of, because this is another way for me to learn about some channels out there too. That's one of the best ways I've found some of our guests it's been suggestions from folks, to let me know as well too, because that way we're also getting people on that you're watching and you're paying attention to out there as well too, so we can have them on the show. So again, right on. Oh, Robin Garden says round table with 3 or 4 gardeners. Yeah, definitely. I like that suggestion. You might like some of the things that we've got to talk about here coming up in the next few weeks as well too. But again, suggestions just like that. Thanks, Robin. And thank you everybody for being here today. Again, where'd the show go? It just went by so fast. So great. But before we head out, everybody, let's click that thumbs up, hit the like button, subscribe, bell notification to be notified of all the upcoming videos, live streams, and all of that. Share with all your friends. Share. This is a big one. We were talking about donations and all of that. I saw a great suggestion in the chat that one of the best free things that you can do to help support our show is to share this show. We're going to be really pushing that coming up this next year as well too. Let's get it out there. Let's let all these other garden friends and garden channels and folks that you know out there, let them know about our show here every Saturday and Sunday, 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. for all of you over there in the UK. Bright and early, 4 or 5, depending on where you're at in Australia. It's really early. So again, we got a cool things we'll talk about, especially for our Australian viewers too, coming up here in the next few weeks. And again, one more big, huge shout out to all of you watching us on the replay. Team Replay. Awesome. Great to see you guys. Drop in the comments below. Follow all the links in the description below as well to all of our other social media. As I usually say, follow all of our links to our guests out there. But I was the guest of my own show today. How fun was that, huh? So follow all the links down below still in the description to all of the other Urban Gardener social media and all of that stuff as well too. But again, everyone, so fun to hang out with you guys. And again, I look forward to seeing all of you for our monthly gardening book club tomorrow, same time, same place. I'll see you there.
All right, take the run. See you on the flippy flop.